guys. So I just got done recording the Zoom call we all did with Chris Funk. It was awesome. For those of you who made it there, that was incredible. You're going to watch this conversation with Chris Funk, and then right after we stay on the call a little bit to discuss what we learned and unpack a couple other questions that may not be related to cold calling. So you may be looking at this video length and thinking, oh my gosh, what a long video. The good news is that Chris is here for about an hour, a little bit more, and then we just kind of discuss for the remainder of the time other topics. So, with that said, I want to introduce Chris Funk for those of you who do not know him. Chris Funk has performed in 4 different casinos in Las Vegas. Yep, he's beat the game 4 times. He's traveled the world performing for companies like Electrolux, Google, Samsung, and has appeared on 5 seasons of Masters of Illusion, and hopefully he doesn't mind me spoiling this, he's about to go on again for a 6th time. He's been on America's Got Talent, Penn and Teller Fool Us, Wizard Wars, Hell's Kitchen, and he regularly performs on over 70 cruise ships, sold out theaters all across Canada, and has worked as a full-time entertainer for 12 years, being in the business for over 22 decades. You may know Chris from some of his releases on Penguin Magic or from seeing his incredible music and magic show. And one thing that I am most proud to say about his show is that even David Copperfield showed up to see it. Guys, we've got such a wealth of knowledge in this one. I won't keep you much longer. Let's get into the call.
To talk about because I mean, there's so much when it comes to growing our businesses. There's so many things that I did years ago. I didn't even know where to start. But there's one thing I really actually wanted to talk about, which is the topic of cold calling. And normally when I say those 2 words, everyone's sphincter just tightens right up because it's like, yeah, I don't want to do that. It can be frustrating, it can be overwhelming, it can be intimidating, but I want to go through a couple of things of what I used to do. And when I say used to, I have a phenomenal manager now who I think is probably one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And so he does all of that. I don't do it anymore. But I have all these techniques. I have the workflows. I even have all the scripts and all of the media that I used to use about 12 years ago. And I want to share all that stuff with you because it worked for me. It really worked for me. When I quit my last day job, just to give you a little bit of background, I was a marketing manager for a dental office, 2008. Can't even remember at this point in time, 2009, something like that. Anyways, and I don't mean to get morbid here, but my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, passed away in my arms. And that was the day that I gave my 2 weeks notice to my day job because I did not want to be the guy that always thought, what if? What if I would have done this? What if I would have followed my passion? I didn't want to be that guy. So yeah, I gave my 2 weeks notice and I decided to become a full-time performer. So my last day of work was December 31st of either 2008 or 2009. I can't recall at this point. And my first day at my new job being a full-time performer was January 2nd of the new year. Well, I sit down in my office and I'm like, and that was it. I did that for a couple of weeks and I had to just start redefining myself because I realized that I'm not just going to be the weekend warrior doing shows or the odd evening. I actually had to fight to find my work. Oh, my wife brought me a celery juice. Hang on. Thank you. So I had to
Celery
fight.
juice? Bro, I
Yeah.
would think that you're in LA and not Canada.
How do you think I maintain this youthful look? I'm 75. So sorry about that. Yeah, so I sat there and I had to redefine how I was going to get all of this work, how I was going to actually start to make money and be a full-time performer and be successful at it. So I started to just really dive into thinking outside of the box and outside of my comfort zone. And back then, I had the Jack Turk, I think, 90-day marketing system, and I had some really cool tools from Dean Hankey. And I tried to read them and apply them, but a lot of them didn't really work for me because it was just didn't work in my brain at all. So one of the things that worked so well for me was when I had a business coach for a very short period of time, I learned absolutely like well, next to nothing except for these techniques of cold call that I combined with my own workflow. And I want to share that with you a little bit later on. So that's kind of a little bit of my background. I probably just piecemealed that together really, really quickly because yeah, this is kind of off the cuff for me. I've never really shared any of this stuff with anybody. So I do want to take questions throughout. So if you have a question about anything that I said or anything that I go over, please feel free to raise your hand or just do whatever you got to do, and feel free to interject and ask away. But yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what you've been learning so far. I haven't had a moment to go through the videos and take a look. So I might be touching on things that you've talked about already. I might be touching on things you haven't talked about, but that you're going to talk about. But throughout this course, it's really amazing just to learn and keep in mind a few of those points, no matter where they're taught. You want to hear them over and over again because they're that important. They're that important. So before we even get into the whole thing about cold calling, one of my biggest things that I love to do with my show is inject a piece of who I am into my show. So my show involves a lot of live music with magic. So if you had seen my Fool Us, it was a violin piece with a rising card. So I threw some live music into the magic element there. Last year in Masters of Illusion, I did Pavel's old walking knot concept with the beautiful Ruben Villagran plug. But I laid down a loop on my guitar, and then I start moving the plug, and the music changes, and it stops, and then it goes back. And there was just some really cool elements of combining magic with live music. So I the reason why I'm telling you this is because I really try to inject who I am into what I do, because that is who I am. It's what I do, and it's what I offer my clients. So I have a very straightforward product of what it is that I'm giving them. So the first thing that I wanted to bring up is the product. Obviously, you always have to think about what the product is. Okay, the product is what you determine you to be. So if you're a corporate entertainer, your product is that you provide solutions for corporate events, entertainment solutions for corporate events. You might have better words, better sizzle words or something than just that. But the product is you. You really need to figure out who you are, what you do, and why you do it. Because as soon as you can answer those three things, you're not going to be like, yeah, I'm a magician and I do stuff at like company picnics. Like it just gives you the confidence when you know who you are, what you do, and why. So it's very important to know that and ask yourself those questions. And if you are struggling with that, because it's very hard sometimes for us to look on the inside and figure out who we are, what do we do, and why do we do it, it can be a little bit stressful trying to figure that out. So it's really good to bounce it off of people. It took me years to be able to put it into words, who I am, what I do, and why, so that I have that elevator speech. You always want to look at it as a triangle. When someone says, what do? You give them that first point that's just like, whoa, that's cool. If they want to know more, you give them a little bit more. And then if they want to know more after that, that's when you can go into your paragraph where it's like, yeah, I do this, 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 and this. That only comes into play when you know where am I pointing here? When you know those questions right there, which is who are you, what do you do, and why. That's going to help create your brand. It's going to help create your image, your design, your website, which I know Michael spoke about. Was it a week or two ago? I don't know. Has that aired, the Michael Eaton
Yep,
video?
yep,
Yeah.
already out. Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
awesome.
And
So, I mean, he talks a lot about the social proof and putting who you are into your website and making it be a really great representation of who it is that you are and what you're putting out there as the product. So, and my wife,
and Chris, one thing I'll tell people too. This is a great example of it. Um, if people want to ask questions, they'll put it in the chat, and I'll interrupt you. I think people are afraid. It is scary to
oh,
interrupt in the middle of the
please.
presentation, and
Yeah.
I will take the blame for you guys. So put it in the chat, and I will.
Oh, yeah, there's a chat. Okay.
Yep. Jan says, I'll be back. I have a demo to do. Good. Go get that money, Dan. That's why we're here. If money comes before stuff in the course, always take it because we're here to make money. So, and then Patrick Ike, maybe you'll get to this, Chris. Proposed this. He said, could you do your elevator pitch? And I'm sure your manager is the one who does your elevator pitch 9 times out of 10, but
He
I'm sure you
does,
still
yeah.
got it.
Yeah, I
Will you
can
touch
totally
on that
touch
or?
on it. So, it's really cool, actually. I'm gonna get. Do I have the book? This is a great resource, even just to figure out your actual product. It helped guide me. So, like I say, when it comes to creating the elevator pitch and really creating the product, who are you, what do you do, and why? Um, you want to have outside influence on that to help mold it, because what you think sounds good might sound good, but then someone else gives you some interpretation. You're like, whoa, that sounds really good, type of thing. So, I forgot I have a
Yes.
book somewhere. Um, Maybe it's here. Sorry, guys. Yeah, there we go. I don't know, Chris, am I allowed to share books on here that kind of touch on
Yeah, man.
business and stuff? Is that cool?
Yeah, the more you
I
can
don't
give
know.
them, the
You know
better,
this
man.
book?
Get booked?
I don't
No,
think
I'm
it's
not familiar with
available
that.
anymore.
Who wrote that?
Um,
Benzie
yeah,
Bruce?
I don't think it is
Benny
available.
Bruce?
I can't find it anywhere. I have the PDF version of it, which is really cool. um, but you can see, like when I was working cruise ships before the pandemic, I've dog-eared a bunch of things, and it's not even more about the business side of things because there's so many different ways to do business. It was more about really narrowing down to who am I, what do I do, and why type of a thing. So to get to that question about the elevator pitch, and it's the first few words on my website, and I use these words because this is what my clients in the past have told me that, and it's funny right now because I've been asked in front of everybody, my mind goes blank, but I think it's, oh, I can look it up right here. Look how professional I am now. I'm telling you what to do, and I can't even do it myself.
I'll get put you on the spot.
Yeah,
Mine,
exactly. It's a
one thing I'll
world-class
tell you
comedy
guys,
magic show that I perform at high-end corporate events. So that's the really quick synopsis that I give. And it goes a little bit longer than that. An internationally acclaimed world-class Las Vegas style magic show at any event. So the reason why I say that is because I made sure that a lot of the product that I was giving wasn't just me showing up with a backdrop. Like I brought production value. I had a road tech that traveled with me who helped put up this production value so that when people walk into the room, they're like, wow, like this is like a little mini showroom type of a thing. And it really just took the show to the next level. So that's where it started. And then where people are like, wow, that sounds incredible. Like what type of magic do you do? Well, you know what? I actually do a very unique approach to magic because not only do I love performing illusions for people, but I've been a musician since I was 4. So I incorporate live music. Well, and they're like, no, 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 wait, what? And then it starts this question thing. So I say things that kind of make their brain want to ask a little bit more about what it is so that we can get that dialogue going back and forth. Um, as much as I wish that I could have just said it right on the spot, like I say, this is one of the first times I'm actually training people on anything that I've done in the past. So my brain totally just went blank when I said that. But talking to someone else, yeah, internationally acclaimed world class Las Vegas style magic show at live corporate events. So
Chris,
that's
one of the
kind of,
things you nailed right there that is so important. I'll be touching on later, but I just if I can scream this to the mountaintops, I will. Um, you setting up that setup and bringing production value is one of the best ways
mhm,
to make sure you can start charging more for your shows because it'll feel worth it before the show even started. With the setup you bring alone, they'll look at it and immediately know that it was worth what they paid for it and then some.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like my whole setup, would cost somebody probably $15,000 if they wanted to set it up on their own. You know what I mean? So just that alone.
mhm,
But I bring it, for less than that when people book me for a show.
yeah,
Every show's getting it, and I think that that's a really powerful thing that you tell them because you're now painting the picture in their mind of what it's going to look like. Because people will want to undersell what you do all the time. It's just natural for magicians.
mhm, yeah, totally. Um, so yeah, I made sure that I mean, going to my live show, that was also a part of my product. But when it came to just giving the verbal elevator pitch, like that's what it is that I narrowed mine down to. Now, does it sound very generic? Yeah, it's kind of generic, but the whole point is that you want to give them something that if they walked away, it says everything. Okay, if they have a second, they want to know more. That's where you can go to the next level. And that's why I always use the analogy of a pyramid. You want to have that point, and that one point is going to have the biggest impact. So, a world class Las Vegas style magic show at any corporate event. Well, if that appeals to them, they're going to love that and they're going to want to know more about that. Well, then I can go into it a little bit more. So, you want to say something that either entices the thought or that leaves them with something like, holy crap, I want to actually look that guy up because that sounds really cool. So, and I mean, that's probably a whole nother session is really getting into the elevator pitch and putting into words what your product is. But the reason why I brought that up is because it is going to lend itself to what it is that I wanted to share. I'm just going to pop that back up one more time. The product, you are the product. Your services and you're actually one. Okay, so you are the product, so you have to know who you are, what do you do, and why, and that's going to come into play when it gets into the cold call. And I actually want to get in to the cold call here concept because we might try one live with you all on and just see what happens. We might. We'll see what happens with that. So I'm gonna go. What I've got is just like a little workflow that I have created that I used to use, and I don't know how many people out there. You can just wave into the camera. How many of you have like a client management software that you use to help you run your business? Can you keep your hands up so I can just keep a track? You all do. Can I ask really quickly, even to put it in the chat, what it is that you use? I want to know what program you're using for your client management. Okay. Put it in the chat just so I can have an idea of the power that you have. Like if it's Zoho or if it's HubSpot or whatever it might be, just toss it in there. Zoho, awesome. Mago. What's Mago, Kevin? That's interesting.
Mago, actually,
Mago.
Chris introduced that to me. It's
Okay.
CRM. Yeah.
Cool. And so that gives you automation, like workflows and all that stuff. Okay, that's fantastic. Super cool. Majo, we got a couple Zoho. So I'm a Zoho guy. I love Zoho. It's ugly. It is not user friendly, but if you can think it, you can do it. That's how powerful that is. And if you can't, I don't know if many of you know this with Zoho, but like I've got a connection with a guy out of Bangladesh, and so I email him, and he will code exactly what I imagine up. He'll code it and put it in there because he is a coder for Zoho. And it'll be like $50, and all of a sudden I have this 25 email workflow that if they opt out here and go into this one, it changes their entire lead status back end. Like it's really cool, and I can talk to you guys about that as well if you ever have any questions. I can guide you in that area because it's pretty cool. But what I'm going to do is just pop up my cold call template right here. If you want to make the screen big, which I hope all of you have, I'm just going to pop mine into big so I can see what I'm doing. But this basically is a very very rough outline of what I did, and I'm going to go through each one of these steps, okay? The great thing about these is that I automated all of this in Zoho, okay? If you can't see this, don't worry. I'm actually going to turn it into a PDF. I'm going to get it to Chris so that everybody can actually download the PDF, and then you'll have everything that I'm showing here. So you don't have to worry about taking notes. You'll just get a copy of whatever I make right here as soon as we're done. But what it was my initial call. So my initial call was just like, and I'm going to go over this because the initial call is actually the coolest phone call, I think, out of all of these, and it makes everything else just so easy. So there's the initial call. We go to the second call, which again, I'll go over, and then we're going to get into the sending info, the follow-ups, and this is the points of contact that we're going to create because I remember Dan Kennedy, one of the biggest marketing gurus that the world's ever seen. I guess my phone is hidden. He used the analogy of a phone. Your screen is always going to turn off unless you touch it. And if you touch your phone, the screen's always going to stay on. So you want to make sure that you strategically create these points of contact to keep your person in touch with you. So that's what I did here with these 7 that I've got. Now, the 7th one, if you look, it says into workflow. Well, my 7th point actually was a workflow that lasted for 3 years. So just creating one workflow, I now had the ability to communicate with one client automatically for 3 years. If they were completely out of this and they go down from the second call, which we'll go over, they still went into a workflow. It's just a little bit more sparse and it doesn't touch on the same things because you never know if maybe in a year, all of a sudden they do need your services. So that is kind of the layout of the workflow that I have, and I want to quickly bang through how it looks. So the initial call, this is my favorite one because you actually don't even talk to anybody really except for the receptionist. And this is one of the biggest keys to cold calling. Do we have any people that do cold calling out there? If you do, pop it into the chat. I want to know. If you don't do any cold calling, I want you to try one this week. Once you get all of this information and kind of wrap it into your brain, I want you to just try one, and you're going to see how awesome this actually is because it's a really sneaky way of building a relationship with the concept of a referral into your cold call. So this is what we're going to do. This is why we post, and no, it's not. Yeah, right. So the very first one we're going to go into here, and I'm going to quickly get there we go. Is the first call. So let's say I'm just going to assume right now that you are all just corporate magicians, or you do company parties, adult parties, Christmas parties, whatever it might be. I'm just going to use that as the analogy. So you decide, I'm going to create a list of companies to call because I know they hire my services because I've done a few of them in the past. So let's say car dealerships or something. So you get a Ford dealership. You know that they're going to put on a Christmas party for all of their employees, whatever it might be. So you realize, okay, so the Ford dealership, this is the phone number. I'm going to call. I get on the phone, and this is how simple it is. So the receptionist, hey, this is Shannon. How can I direct your call? This is cold calling. Hey, Shannon, hope you're having a good day. Listen, I was wondering if you could do me a quick favor, if you could just help me out. Can you tell me who it is that I would contact at a later date if I wanted to talk to them about the various events that you put on at your company? Who would that be? And they'll say, oh, yeah, you want to talk with Rachel over in whatever department. And you're like, awesome, Rachel. What was Rachel's last name again? And you just make it sound like you're already in this conversation and that she's giving you information. So, Rachel, so and so. Perfect. You know what? Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. We'll talk to you soon. And end the call. You just cold called. That's it. You're not selling anything. You're not putting yourself out there. You don't have to give your elevator speech. You have to do nothing. It's a 30-second phone call. But what you just did is you got confirmation that they put on events, and you got confirmation that Rachel so and so is the person to talk to because she coordinates the events. So you now go into your workflow and you can put Rachel in, you have the phone number, and you can create a workflow off of that. What my workflow did is it divided up. If we can go back there for a second, let me see if that works. No, it doesn't work for some reason. There we go. So what happened is every piece of that workflow sent an email. It was either an email to the client that's in the workflow, or it's an email to me. And the great thing about emails to me is that when you have it come in like the form of a cell phone email, my template would basically have Rachel's name and the phone number, and then a brief description because it's already populated into the workflow when I created it, and I can share more about that afterwards. But basically, I know that today I made the call. I got Rachel's name for Ford. I got the phone number. I created a workflow. I waited a couple days because that's what I said in my script, is that, if I were to contact someone at a later date, who would it be? So
Hey, Chris, let's do this just so
yeah.
people can have it. I'm going to do you guys a favor. I'm going to read to you what they say in the circles. Do you guys want me to do that real quick? Can you give me a thumbs up?
Oh, is
Okay,
it hard
see
to
a lot.
read? Yeah,
It is blurry, and that's not your fault. You know what we talk about with Zoom. It's just how that is. So,
it is. Yeah.
um, so Chris doesn't do it. He does everything on StreamYard because he's fancy. Um, so the big circle at the far left, it says first phone call or one phone
Initial
call.
call. Yeah.
Yeah, initial call. Then it says second call is the one to the right. I don't know if people are writing it down, so I'll slow down. Beneath that, the red one says we don't do that or not right now, which it should always be not right now. If people say no, they're still in your system and you're going to follow up with them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
3 is send info. And he'll touch on all this, but I'm giving it to you out of the gate so you know, so you're not in the dark. 4 is follow up. This is at the top going across. So to recap, 1, initial call. 2, second call. 3, send info. 4, follow up. 5, it should say, I think it's is that principal mailer?
Physical mailer.
Physical mailer, thank you.
Yep.
4, make an offer. And 7, info workflow.
Into workflow.
Oh,
so
into
they go
workflow.
into like the
Yeah.
longevity workflow that I can go over. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, hopefully that gives you guys some idea. And then, do you want to go over the bottom one? You should read it out since I can't really read it myself.
Yeah, for sure. So the bottom one is a lot like the top one. So it goes from the red dot to send info, physical mailer, offer, and then into a scattered workflow. So what I mean by scattered is it's just a little bit more sparse. It's spread out. It's not like this person who was a hot lead. They're just like a cold lead or a warm lead, and you still want to stay in touch with them.
Does it say
So
less frequent? What does it say on the line there?
less frequent workflow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
No problem.
So I make my first phone call. I got Rachel's info. I put it into my Zoho as a lead, and I activated my workflow, which meant that in 3 days, I'm simply just going to get an email from myself. I don't have to think about calling Rachel anymore. It's all automated. So I load up the email and it said, call Rachel at Ford with this phone number. You got her name from, and I put my note in there. Like, let's say the receptionist's name was Suzanne. I put, you got her name from Suzanne, and I put that in bold letters. And there's a good reason why, and we're going to get to that right now. So I'm going to go to, this is the first call that we already went over really quick. And again, you are going to get all of this here. So don't worry about trying to scribble down any of the notes. You'll get a PDF. The second call, so 3 days later, I call up, hey, can I speak with Rachel? Perfect. Hey, Rachel, listen, Suzanne said I should give you a call. So you see what I did there? She now thinks that Suzanne from the front referred that I call her because we had already talked about the fact that I offer entertainment. None of that happened, but it creates in her mind this, oh, Suzanne, yeah, that's cool. She said that you should call me. Awesome. Yeah, my name's Chris. I provide companies like yours with, and use your sizzle words like the exciting, exceptional, high-end, world-class, whatever it is, type
Hey,
of
this is
magic
Zach
shows.
speaking.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press
Hey,
There
this
we
is
go.
Zach.
We're going to mute Zach there. And so from there, I was wondering if I could send you some information regarding what I do and how I can just help make your future events with the spelling error a huge success. So at this point, I don't have to get nervous about trying to sell them on anything. All I'm doing is following up with my first phone call, acting like I had a referral from someone that she knows. So it already has broken down any barriers. If you think about what cold calling used to be, or if you still get cold calls from people, like they're annoying. This removes all annoyance, all frustration, all issues with what cold calling can actually be. If you take that step and then this second step. If she's like, yes, that'd be awesome, just send me some info, or like, we're not really planning anything right now, and there's always some great rebuttals that you can have that you need to be prepared for, which is like, yeah, you know what? I understand you're probably not booking anything right now. A lot of my clients actually book me maybe about a year out just to make sure that they have their date and the entertainment that they want. I'd love to send you some info to see if maybe one day my services would be a benefit to you, something like that. Just a really positive spin on her saying, well, we don't really do that. Yeah, I totally get it. No problem. Why don't I send you some stuff anyways, and I'll follow up with you. How about I send you something and I'll follow up with you in a week? She's like, sure, why not? Normally they say sure. I've never had someone say no at this point in time because they think a friend already referred me. They want to be polite to you. So the next thing that I do, are we good so far? Is this making sense? How we just take a very clean, soft approach to cold calling? It's not an aggressive sales thing yet. We're going to move forward to the third piece here. And there we go. So the third piece is now the third point of contact. So you're sending your information. Marketing material is key here. This is where you want to make sure that you've already defined who are you, what do you do, and why, because your marketing material has to reflect that. Holy crap, does it ever have to reflect that, like in a big bad way? So you want to make sure that the email that you're going to send to her, because you're not going to send a physical mailer yet, you're going to send an email to her or him, whoever it might be, and it's going to have, hey, thank you so much for chatting today. I appreciate your time. Here's the information that I promised you that I would send. This is my website. You're going to have your video links, if you have video links, with your social proof, with your testimonies, because those are all a part of the powerhouse of booking your shows. If you don't have a lot of them, that's okay. You just need one. You just need one of them. I remember when Teller gave me the quote, irresistible. That's the only quote I used everywhere for a few years because nothing else compared to that one quote. So if you have one good one, that's all you need. You want to keep the email short and sweet, very polite, very powerful. Just have the gold in there. The gold is your website. The gold is the video link, the testimonial. And if you have a call to action on your website, that's the link that you want to send to them. And we're going to talk about call to action a little bit later on as well. But mention a follow-up date and time. This is really, really important. I always had mine auto-populate within my my workflow so that it would remind me. I would just look exactly 7 days later at the time that I just talked to her, and that would be what was automatically in my workflow. So I sent her the information, and I actually called her or emailed her back at the exact time on the exact date that I said I would. Now, the reason why that's important is because it just proved to them that you are someone that does what they say they're going to do. And in the world of sales, there's more flakes and granola people out there than there are people who actually do what they say they're going to do. So, super powerful thing. Call them when you said you were going to call them, or email them when you said you were going to email them as a follow up. Don't expect anything at this point in time. It's just a piece of the puzzle. We're just touching the screen on the phone to keep it on, right? So, third point of contact is done with that follow up email, which is already pre written and templated in your workflow within your CRM. We're going to go to the next slide here, which is the fourth point of contact. Sorry. Yes, I already talked to you about this one here, which is calling when you said you were going to call them. If you're going to call them, this is a little script. Hey, I just wanted to follow up, as I mentioned I would, and see if you had a moment to review any of the information I sent. I was wondering if you had any questions about it, or if you wanted to talk about anything, or if you just need a little bit more time. But I just wanted to follow up. Be pleasant, be courteous, don't talk price. You're not selling anything yet. You're just maintaining that whole sequence of communicating with a potential client. After this is one of the biggest things ever that worked for me. The point of contact, the mailer, the physical point of contact. How many people love getting mail? I love getting mail that isn't something that's like pre-typed with a label slapped on it. Like, I love it when it looks personalized. I just love getting mail because it means someone thought about sending me something. Most people, you have to realize, in an office, let alone at home, is they sort their mail over a garbage can. I don't know if you do that, but I do. I have my recycling bin and my garbage right where I walk in with my mail, and that's where I sort it. And if it's like flyers of pizza joints I don't eat because I'm celiac, I just toss them out. Like, it doesn't matter to me, right? So I'm just sorting right there. Well, when I get something that's handwritten, I light up. So your mailer, I put it, even though it's maybe a postcard, I put the postcard inside of an envelope and I handwrite really nicely their address with their name and I mail it to them. And that way they're getting something that just makes them feel special. When they pull it out and they realize that it's just like a promotional piece of yours, you want it to look vibrant. Now, I know that Michael Eaton has, there we go. So I'm going to go forward here a little bit. That's an example of one of my postcards, but we're going to get to that in a little bit, what the content is. I'm just going to cycle through these here. So this never made it into my postcards, but I'm going to just go through a bunch here and share with you things of what it was that I sent. So this was just me working on a design, and I'm going to show you what it evolved to, and you'll see why the second one is way better than the first one. But it was fun, engaging, magical, diverse, entertaining with a big spelling error, because I didn't use it. I scrapped it right off the top. The one that I ended up going with was this one here. Are you looking for something to make your next event unforgettable? Pre-qualification question. They're obviously going to say yes. I asked them a rhetorical question, but it gets them enticed. 2 quotes that I had from a long time ago. So this was the front of the postcard. It was colorful. It was vibrant. It's a lot different than the other material that they're probably going to have on top of their desk. Next thing, I mean, these are some things here of what Michael Eaton did. He said that I can actually use these to share with you what he's capable of doing if you need help designing something. But you want to just look at something that's vivid, that has color, that actually gets a point across. And the point is, who are you, what do you do, and why? So you just want to make sure that you show yourself as the expert. I've got professional material. I do what I say, and I say what I'm going to do. I don't know if some of you have some of these reports. I used to have reports. I used to have a report that said 6 things you need to know before you hire a magician. I had it written 15 years ago or something like that. I might even still have it somewhere. But that positioned me as the expert, because another magician might not do that, and then they read it and they realize he's not the one I want.
Another good one you could do is you could send a postcard where on the back is a QR code. Like the front can say no to surprises. On the back's QR code. They scan it and it opens a video. Now remember, guys, we're just in the social media unit, so we talked about creating value content for our clients, videos that share things that will eliminate surprise at events, 6 things you need to know when having a successful corporate speaker come on. You know, these are videos that they can scan that take them straight to your social media. You have more of a chance of capturing them as a follower, which of course then if they follow you, they'll see all the posts you're making that week. So I want to tie that into what we're talking about.
Totally. That's great. That's absolutely great. Yeah. Here's one here. 5-point play, the 5 most critical components to look for before hiring a magician for your event. His looks like a booklet, but I think that's just how Michael Eaton had laid out the design for it. But something like this would be a physical mailer. So like a trifold, a postcard with a QR code on it that goes to a video, but something that it's tangible, they can get their hands on, but it also has the vibrance and the color of your brand in there to keep that cohesiveness and keep you top of mind. Because at this point, think about how many points of contact we've had. We've had the first one isn't a point of contact, but the second one, the introduction, an email, a follow-up, and now a mailer, right? And this is all super easy. I mean, the first ones just take a couple minutes of your time. The last one is just a matter of stuffing something, writing it, and throwing it into the mail. What you're building that brand awareness for you, but you're also building loyalty with this person because they now realize that they're just going to get good stuff from you, and you are responsible. When you tell them you're going to do something, you do it. So very, very important. These are some other great bits. I'm a huge fan of either a postcard or a trifold. If it gets too big and too cumbersome, I don't know. I just haven't really liked that. I like it to keep it tight and have power pieces in there. Ultimate no nonsense reference guide. Like, you're sending them a physical mailer of something that just helps put things over the edge. So these are all very important pieces. And if you want to see more or know more about what Michael's done, get in touch with him. If you want to just get these images that I have here to like maybe spark some ideas, you can always watch the video again as well. Now, this is something I got from Joel Bauer years ago. This is an interactive grid. Normally, what you're supposed to do is the top instructions, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which you probably can't read right now, which is okay. It's just the instructions on how to do the actual grid. It's supposed to be upside down, so you can actually bend on the perforation and hang it on your finger like this while you show it to someone. So it just guides them to put their finger on something, make a couple moves, and they're always going to end up, obviously, the head with the dove, when I used to use birds in my act, they would always end up there. And then my whole thing was, no matter where you begin or who you choose, if success is your goal, you'll always end up with Chris Funk. And I mean, it's pretty cocky for me to say that, but I give them all the options that they potentially could have for an event. And I get them looking that I am actually the solution. I start trying to get them to think that way. So that's one of the postcards that I sent. That was the back. And then I changed the back to this because I stopped mailing out the postcard. I put it in an envelope so I could handwrite the address on there. And this just gave a quick little synopsis of my show. This is like so old right now at this point in time. So it sounds a lot like what a lot of magicians are doing. He started at the age of this when he learned his first card trick. And I mean, we all have that story and we all love to share it with everybody. So obviously we don't use that anymore, but that went on the back of it just to give a little bit of info and call to action on the other side, the line it's cut off here. And the grid again. So those are the mail out ideas that I use. Just something that is graphically vibrant, colorful, and gets a point across. Okay.
You could also send up, like, if you find out that they are planning an event, this works great for holiday party seasons. You know that there's committee meetings about events. One of the things you could send is like a little folder with like 3 things, and it just on the folder says, bring this to your committee meeting. Now you're giving somebody the opportunity to be like the star of the show at their next meeting. Everyone wants to be that. If they can come in and like have materials that they don't necessarily have to have anything to do with you, like Chris showed, but if they're like tips or things to think about when planning the event or possibilities, that's a really great way for you to know they're talking about you with the people who make the decisions. So,
yeah, that's great. So this is where we ended up with the whole scripting thing, which was my follow-up. The follow-up, I called or emailed exactly when I said I was going to. Wanted to see if they had any questions. Didn't talk any price. Man, this all worked right before. There we go. So this is the mailer where they sorted over a garbage can. We talked about just putting something that's vibrant, gets the point across, into an envelope with a handwritten address on it so that they don't think it's this automated mail out. Okay. I like to have a call to action on there. So very often on my mailer with that QR code, it'll go to like chrisfunkmagic.com/offer. And they'll go to that page And it's basically a place where I can capture their attention with maybe an offer. Like if I didn't send out a report of the 6 things to know before you hire a magician, but I sent out a postcard that tells them about it, what could happen is they could actually go to your website, put their email address in, and now you know they're even a hotter lead, okay? Because they are now going to your site. You've just generated that response in them without really trying to draw it out of them. You let them take that action on their own. So it's just a great way to capture more info about the potential client that you are going to have. It's like if they fill that out, okay, I know they're hot. I know that they're going to be good. I want to keep them at my top of the list of who I'm going to communicate to. So that's what I love to do. A little link or a URL or a QR code or just something to get them to your website to see if they're going to take action towards you. The 6th point is the offer. Now, at this point, some people very often have booked me before I even get to this part of the game. And if they do, in my workflow, as soon as I uncheck a box, it removes them from the future workflow because they're now an actual client of mine. They're a buying customer, so they're in a different workflow. So the offer here, figure out an offer that works for you. If you're a children's entertainer, you know what? I'm doing the magic show, and I'm actually, right now, if you book before the end of May, I'm throwing in an additional 30 minutes of balloon animals at no extra cost. Something like that. I don't know what Chris's thoughts are when it comes to adding an offer, but there are a lot of different ways of adding value to what it is that you're doing with a deadline. Always give a deadline, just to entice them to want to book now type of a thing. Chris, do you have any thoughts on offers or anything?
Yeah, I love that. Discounting your price is never the way to go with an offer.
Never.
I've experimented with that in the past. Even recently, for a point that I was going to make in this course, you'll see like, oh, well, no, because it was kind of a parody. You guys probably didn't see it as on my magic page. But yeah, discounting your price then lessens the value of what you're providing overall in their mind, and then it also kind of makes it seem like you don't think what you're providing is already worth it at that price. It's kind of like the sweater. Like if you buy a sweater discounted, you bought it because it was discounted. You would have never bought it at full price. That's what you tell yourself. But if you buy the sweater for $60 and then you get a pair of pants 30% off, now the sweater, oh, I really wanted this sweater, and here's my little push to make sure that I can commit to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. We never discount as an offer. Obviously, if you have decided that I work within people's budgets, that's outside of this. This is not the offer that you're making, but the offer is so important because the offer just gives them something now to look towards taking action on.
And
Okay,
one
it's
more
another
thing,
action point.
Chris, one more thing I wanted to chime in and say this.
Mhm.
Guys, think about when you the conversations you hear about people who got things on sale. What is the first thing they say? They say, "I love your shirt," and you say, "Oh yeah, really? $30." That they always say what they got the deal on, and you don't want people doing that with your show. It then becomes that they hired you because of the price. The price was affordable, not because what you provide was worth shelling out cash for. It's a whole other
Yeah.
game that we're playing. You know, people who wear a Louis Vuitton shirt, they're going to talk about that differently than people who got a shirt for $15 at Ross.
Yeah, and you know what's funny actually? So the shows that I have discounted when I used to do my own contracts, now my manager actually uses this technique as well. But let's say we're booking at X amount of dollars, and they can't pay that, but it's a day where I'm not working, so we're willing to do it for this much type of a thing. What we do is the contract is for this price. So the contract actually states our high price that they didn't agree to. And then we have a little area where we throw in a weird discount name, and it's either like a friends and family referral, X amount of percent off. So if someone says, "How much did you get them for?" They're like, "Oh, well, it says this much here, but I think we pay that because a friend of ours referred him." Then all of a sudden that makes so much more sense, and it shows your value on their document that they're sharing with someone. So that's just to digress a little bit. If you ever do a discount, that's just a really sneaky, great way to throw it into the contract so they see what the value is, but they know what they're getting. So back to the offer here, yeah, figure out an offer that works for you. Maybe it's throwing in close-up magic. If you're doing a stage show, I'm throwing in close-up magic. If all you do is close-up magic, then maybe say, if you book before now, or if you do this, I'm willing to give another half hour or another hour type of a thing, or a hospitality suite. Very often, some of the high-end galas, some corporate events have a hospitality suite. You book me for this, I'll give you a free hospitality show. So just give them a really cool offer that makes them want to take action again. So that's 2 action points that we have now back to back. The mailer had an action for them to call you or get in touch with you to retrieve a report or more information. Offer is another point where they're going to possibly take action to come to you as well. Moving on, I think that that's it as far as what I had for the immediate workflow. When I go to number 7, which says into workflow, what that does is it puts them into just this cycle of staying in touch. And maybe it's like once a month, or maybe I wait for 3 months. And I say, hey, it's just me checking in to see if you had any events. And that's an automated email that I don't have to think about. Put a call to action in there. If some new cool stuff happened to you, like if you were on a morning TV show, or if you were in the newspaper, or if you have a brand new show, throw that in there. Hey, I thought you'd be interested in this. I just wrote a brand new show, which is perfect for companies like you. The response I'm getting is incredible. Whatever it is, let's use those words in the email. So the number 7 is they stay within the workflow, but it's more of like a trickle effect at this point in time, where I don't have to think about it. It's just automated because I already did my aggressive getting in touch with them at the beginning. They're now just a part of a workflow. And if we back up from everything just for a second and take a look at that workflow, it only started with me saying, hey, if I were to contact them at a later date, who would that be? And just that one innocent little phone call, getting a name and getting the receptionist or the person who answered the phone's name, if you just get those 2 bits of information, you have this powerhouse of a workflow ready to go that took 0 nerves, almost no effort, and made everyone feel good, as opposed to having like the door-to-door vacuum salesman come in and give a hard sell. You're giving a very pleasant approach to this, and you're building a relationship more than you're selling to them, which I know everything is about relationship building. It used to be a huge thing in marketing. Marketing slowly shifted away from that. And now the pandemic is bringing that back, is that people now more than ever going to live shows. It is all about relationship. It is all about interacting with people, being friendly, being the person that they missed being with during the pandemic. So build a relationship that sells more than selling. Okay. The way that you're going to sell, once again, just to go back to it, is the product. You got to know who you are, what do you do, and why. You figure that out, and then you go into this whole cold call template thing. I mean, you're just set up to destroy. You're set up to get amazing amounts of shows if you just follow these steps. And the reason why I say it works is because it worked. It worked for me. Boy, did it work for me. And this is someone who I did not want to phone people and ask for business. So I didn't. I took this approach, and it was amazing. So do we have any questions about anything so far? I'd love to just get
I was
some
going to
feedback.
chime in, interrupt you as I promised for Severino. And I had something I wanted to say, but I'll ask Severino's question first. What do you do if the receptionist is telling you that they are not allowed to give out the phone number nor the email address? Also, you'll notice, guys, I'm reading the questions out loud so people who are in the replay can know what the question was. So, Chris, if you ever answer a question in the chat, make sure to just read it so people in the replay get
Sounds
it.
good, yeah.
One more time. What do you do if the receptionist is telling you that they are not allowed to give out the phone number nor the email address? I've never really had them say no to both. That's interesting. Usually it's one or the other.
That is a good point. And I think my approach, and it's such a cliche, but it works now, especially more than ever, but I kill people with kindness. Like and it's not that I'm slapping it on. I legit maybe think of a really happy thought. I put a smile on my face, and then I make the phone call while I've got that residual going on, right? And I can get into the science behind that. My wife is a life coach, and she's studied under so many doctors, but as soon as you start smiling, the muscles that it activates actually create a dopamine hit in your brain that chemically you cannot refuse for a moment.
Chris, bring yourself full screen so we can see you, by the way.
Me? Oh, okay.
I'm going to side by side us because I've got more of a dialogue thing going on.
Cool.
for a
Yeah.
second.
So what I do is I made sure that I got myself into like okay, this is good. Maybe I listen to music for a minute, and I'm like, for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to call 5 companies, and I'm going to get 5 names. And I just got myself hyped up, and I put on my music, and as soon as the call was ready to come in, mute, call, Awesome. Hey, and then I went through my script and I was just nice. Hey, I hope you're having a great day today. Listen, I was wondering if you could do me a huge favor. The reason why I say, can you do me a huge favor? And I use the word favor is inherently people love doing favors. It's like, Chris, can you do me a huge favor? Listen, I need a hand with something. I just need you to take a look at a PDF. And just by positioning it a certain way, it kind of makes you go, oh, well, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Right? Like it just kind of helps shift and take control of that moment, almost like you're influencing them in the moment, but you're only doing that because you're pleasant. So you're being pleasant and you just want to make them feel pleasant, I guess. I hope that answers your question. Now, I understand different parts of the world. There could be different mentalities, different emotions, different workplace behaviors. You're probably going to get a handful of no's in the midst of this, but that's okay. It's okay to get no's. It doesn't mean that you got defeated. It just means that that wasn't the best way to communicate to that company. That was it, right?
Yeah. Um, Guys, write that down, please. Write down smile when you speak. If you go back and look at my course material that I've recorded so far, I am smiling when I'm talking to you guys. The reason my information is hitting sometimes is just because I'm smiling when I speak. And they can actually hear the difference in your voice when you smile. In either this module or next module, I'll be sharing recordings of my phone calls I did with clients, which was hard to do, by the way. Some of you guys asked me to do that, so I did it. I had to find a way to do it that that was tactful because I'm hitting this button and it lets the person know I'm recording them and they would just like shut up after that and didn't want to spy anything from me. But
Yeah.
you'll hear me smiling. This, the way I'm talking now, sounds very different from me talking like this. There's a muscle thing that's happening. The way that it leaves your mouth when your mouth is this shape is different than the way it leaves when it's flat. There's some science behind that. I was actually talking with Zach about that recently. Seiko had a question. So Seiko, I spotlighted you so that you could ask it.
Yeah.
I hope that I was right.
So it wasn't really a question. It was just following on to the question that was asked. So if you hit a total dead end on the phone, the other thing that you can do is you can hit LinkedIn. And I use LinkedIn quite a lot. So what I would do is I would not try and go to the marketing department or any of the PAs. What I'd try and do is get someone in sales, and I'd ask the same question to a salesperson, and I'll hit like 3 or 4 of them. And the thing is, salespeople are quite open to a request like that, and they will give you the name. And then you can just put it back into your workflow. And that's kind of what I've done in the past.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, if you are a ninja on LinkedIn, which I am not, that is a great way to go through and find the people to communicate with at companies. The one thing is that very often the committee changes. It's just like so-and-so in this department volunteered to be the head of the committee for this part of this season type of a thing. So very often finding the person or finding someone in LinkedIn or going through a couple of them can get a little bit tricky. It does work. What you said does work, and it works beautifully. But very often, to even eliminate that, knowing that I just want to, and again, going with like Ford, because that was the analogy, just that quick question, wondering if you're doing me a favor. If I was to contact someone at a later date, who would that be? I had to do zero digging, zero research. It took me 6 seconds to get a name, right? So it's just, it's a nice, quick way of doing something very similar to what you were saying as well, just a different approach.
I totally love the cold call. I think the cold call is the way to go. It's the quick, easy route. But if you hit a dead end, like like in the UK, I know that sometimes it's super difficult to get details. They don't like giving names or email addresses. So then you just hit them on LinkedIn, and then you've got a referral, even if that leads you to the next person. You know, they can give you the information.
I wanted to add to that too, Severino. And Seiko, are you cool if I send you back to the gallery? Are you cool with that?
Yeah, go. Cool. Send me away.
All right. Well, wave us goodbye, man. All right, cool. There you go. Feels better when I do that. I have a whole thing that on my Zoom shows I can't just send people back. It's rude. Like, it feels like you threw them away.
Be gone.
Yeah, get out of here. Severino, an answer to that, man. I get how things are in Germany where you are. And Switzerland's almost worse for this. It's the security reason. It's not. I was gonna chime on here and say it has something to do with maybe they didn't trust what you were selling, or they didn't think it was for them, and so they know that they're not gonna give like any information. It's less likely that it's that, and it's more of just a security purpose. Here's my solution for that, because I call people who are high security all the time. In fact, I've even done shows for the FBI before, and you better believe that I cannot get a phone number and email there. In fact, they give me trunk phones, meaning the number they called me from, it disconnects after a certain amount of time. It's no longer a number, so it's hard to contact people. One thing, I'll use my example of Dominion
That's
Energy.
cool.
Yeah, trunk phone. I get that's how I learned what those were.
Yeah.
Dominion Energy is my local power company, and they're like the big of the big. Like they have so much money. I knew I want to perform for them. Getting in with them is a huge benefit to my company. Same thing happened. I couldn't get an email or a phone number. It's the only time it's ever happened to me outside of the other example I just gave. It does not happen for me, but it happened this time. My solution was, well, I just called one person in the company. Even if it is in some way company policy, if I'm as nice as I am, and and she was nice back too, just said, hey, sorry, it's just, I'm just not able to give that out to anybody, but
Yeah.
you could send some information to me and I could review it and send it along to them. I could have done that, but I knew that was a losing formula. So
Yes.
I called somebody else in the company, asked them, and they gave it to me, which probably means they messed up. But call people, other people in the company. Somebody is bound to, if you're nice and you don't seem to be a threat, to slip up and give it to you, or just forget altogether, give it to you. And then lastly, company directories. Look for a company directory online. They may not have them where you are in the world, but over here, a lot of time they'll have one. And yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, are you cool if I talk their ear off for one more second? And I'm gonna toss it to you.
Yeah.
Chris, will you share? Because I know this question's coming, and this is a question I got a lot before the course even began. When I asked people, "What do you need to know to make this course worth it for you?" One of the biggest responses I got was, "Who do I talk to at a company when I want somebody to book my show?" All right, Chris, I'll send that question over to you.
So that's a part of this whole cold calling, because, like I said just moments ago, it could be a person on a committee that changes. Very often, it's HR that takes care of a lot of this. I know some of the large company events that I've done, it's just whoever at HR, or very often that is their role, event coordination. That is their role at the company. So yeah, it's not always the same person to find. There's not one specific person. I know a lot of the companies, it's been the CEO, or the guy who the company's named after is the one that I'm communicating with, and he might want to have more control than anything. So I've never been able to figure out who it is that the specific person is to go to. And that's why this approach for me, where I lived in Canada, that approach worked so well for me, to just bypass the figuring stuff out and get the name immediately so I know who I'm talking to.
Mm.
So that's why I wanted to talk about this approach. But yeah, I don't know. And I mean, now even more today, because I have a manager, I don't even know more than ever who the actual people are that are booking. But that's where it's really good to like do the legwork and figure that out for your market, for your niche, for who you perform for.
Let's go through a few things. This is my world, and yes, I still cold call.
Yep.
So if it's internal, likely HR. Sometimes it's usually HR, sometimes marketing, or dedicated event planner. Those are going to be your bigger companies. Smaller companies aren't going to have those, and I assume not everybody in here is performing for companies at the scale that they have a dedicated event planner. Other times, if it's not HR, if it's not marketing, which they're doing an internal event, or it's not an event planner, chances are somebody was delegated for that role. They were voluntold to be a part of a committee, or they wanted brownie points at work, and it's some dude in data analysis, or it's some girl in who's the front. It could be anybody, and it does change usually seasonally, if not every year. If it's an external event, it's usually going to be marketing. It's either going to be sales. And there was one other one that escapes me. A lot of the time they'll have like consumer relations, so it could be that too. Those are your external events. These are client appreciations. These are product launches. Which product launches, they'll make your pockets big. So, look into those. One more thing, and I have a whole lesson on this, but I will mention it. When you get on the phone with somebody, a lot of you are probably dropping the ball on a sales call because you're not asking this question. Who besides yourself is in charge of making these decisions? They can't communicate everything that you've just communicated with them
No.
the way that you can. They don't know who you are, what you do, and why you do it. You could tell them, but we're already condensing it as much as it can be. They're going to condense it more, and it's going to get lost in translation. That's why Chris sending these physical materials is so important, because now they have something to show when there's other decision makers, when they're not the sole person in charge of that event. And a lot of time the person you're talking to, they won't be. But you do get to circumvent that committee if you hit them early, because now they're already thinking about you, and they'll just make it kind of rule of thumb. You need to have this person for this next event. All right.
Yep. Totally. No, that's all solid gold. I actually did for a while as well. The person who was receiving my mailer, it took them to a video where I taught them how to do a trick. So it's like, you want to entice people to get a magician at your next event, learn this trick, perform it for them, and then take it from there. So it's like just a bunch of really cool levels on how you can get people hungry for what it is that you are about to offer them or what you offer them. So you had said something in there, but it went in one ear and read out the other. I wanted to touch on it.
I do the same thing to get followers. I tell people, hey, if you follow me, like if I'm doing a big live and there's like 1,000 people watching, I say, hey, for everybody who follows me right now, I'll message you a video teaching you how to turn a $1 bill into $100 bills. And I just teach like this lame version I came up with, but it's still cool enough to fool their friends.
Yeah.
So those types of things really do incentivize people to take action.
My go-to, just to share with you, my go-to teaching trick is the one where you fold it down into a little plank like this, and you
balance
just
it?
get it. Yeah, you do the little floaty balancing thing on there.
I've got to show you something. Yeah, that is a good giveaway.
It's a great giveaway. It's simple for them to grasp, learn, and almost do moments later type of thing. So that's a great little giveaway as well. It's added value once again. I really wish I could remember what you had said there.
Do you remember what it pertained to?
I do remember. You mentioned, we were talking about finding the person that does the decision making or whatever. So one thing that I did later in the game, right before I got management and then I stopped doing it, is I hired someone to do data mining. And so I went on Fiverr and I paid $10 for someone to go and find every single company that fell in line with who I felt was my ideal client, create a spreadsheet, and then there was room for them to either find out the owner or whatever, like the head of HR or marketing, whoever it would be, and they'd fill it out. And a day later, I had 150 different companies with a phone number that I know were within the bubble of where I wanted to be, that fell in line with the type of company that I wanted. Well, all of a sudden, I look at the phone, look at it on my phone. The phone number is automatically registered by your phone. I just tapped it, and I went through my whole cold calling thing, and then I added a checkbox that I'm completed that, right? And I contacted 150 companies in a day. Like, that's 150 more companies that you had this morning that now know about you, that you probably can put in the workflow. And if you book 10% of that, if you book 1% of that, I mean, that was worth your time right there for that one task, right? So Fiverr data mining is incredible. But once again, before you can even get into that, you got to define your niche. How do you define your niche? Well, you got to define who are you, what do you do, and why. And as soon as you have all that, yeah.
Yeah, Chris, and I got some notes from your talk that whatever I don't go over now, we can go over, guys, in the coaching call on actually tomorrow. And also, if you need help developing your what, your why, or your what, your how, your why, bring that up in the call, because it's something I like to help you guys put together. And I'm also sure that Chris is willing to get in contact with you guys and help you as well. Chris, before I get into that, I had some things I written down I wanted to go over. I'm going to tell you what I took away from it, and then you can add on to it and maybe uncover it a little bit more. Okay. So, yeah, I've got a lot here. I'll start with this one. One of the most powerful things in this whole lesson, guys, one of the most powerful things is, can you help me? That is one of the most powerful phrases of this, because what do you do when you answer the phone and people assume they can help you? You hang up. It is uncomfortable to answer the phone and be offered help. In theory, it sounds great, but it never works. People answer the phone to serve, not to be served. So let them serve you. Hi, I was wondering if you can help me. And pause. Talking too much is the sales giveaway. If you talk too much on those calls, they know that you have ulterior motives. You guys probably know how hard that is for me. I'm a talker. Too much. I just have to say, hey, I was wondering if you can help me. That's it. Yeah. I just pause and just let them talk more, and you don't need a lot of information. So you just need to ask those two things, who.
Just their name. That's the only thing I ever ask of them if I don't get it before I say the help me line, just so that I can use their name. Because when you use someone's name, it's powerful. It's a very powerful thing. So.
Yeah, and information is the key to get past gatekeepers. I had written down initially, information kills the gatekeepers, but we don't want to kill anybody. Okay, we don't want to do that. But
Nope.
I always think of cold calling as kind of like they're gonna ask security questions. It's almost like if you could find out the person you need to talk to's maiden name, you're better off. So not really, but when you have information, you're able to get through those situations a lot better. It's like sneaking past a guard gate.
Yeah.
If you haven't done cold calling before, I want to prepare you for that. I want to prepare you for the gatekeeper, which is the person who answers the phone that knows that people in the company can't just be taking calls from anybody all day because they'll be inundated with people like us. So, but we're serving them in a way that actually matters and makes a difference in their life. Remember that. And then also, Chris, you didn't touch on this, but I think you should mention you cannot feel defeated when you get a no. What's beautiful about what Chris has is that a no is still a win. In fact, some of my best gigs I've ever done have come from a no. Like it is people. Actually, yesterday I'm driving home from a gig, and this dude calls me out of nowhere. And I recognize his voice. His name was Chandra. I think I'm saying that right. And he wants to book me for his company. And I was like, Chandra, you sound familiar. Where have we talked before? And he goes, oh, you reached out to me in 2019, but at the time we weren't doing anything. And then 2020 happened, and we thought about you this whole time. That's a dude who I thought was like I would have never heard from again. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, totally. I just, beginning of March, I did my highest paying gig ever, which came from a hard no off the bat, a hard no. And it was my highest paying gig. It took place at 11 a.m. in my studio in my house. And by 12:15, I was in my sweatpants having a glass of wine, celebrating the fact that I didn't even leave my house. And I got this win, the highest paying win from a hard no. So no's just are simply just like it's just not lining up right now. That's all that it is. So that's why I have that secondary workflow and I mean, we can talk a little bit about that briefly, but we don't have to get too much into detail. It's just a sparse workflow because you still want to be like, hey, I know you said that you didn't want to blah, 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 but just in case, I thought I would send you this. Have an awesome day. Here, learn how to do a trick. Be the hero at your house tonight type of thing. Just send something like that. People love that. And it just is a unique approach to get in there to defeat the naysayers and the negative people out there. Like it's just a fun way to still contact people pleasantly, but sparsely. So you still have a workflow for them. Because no's, I don't know. I mean, Thomas Edison found out 999 no's before that one yes kicked in for the light bulb. So
what's cool about Chris saying that he plays music and he just, he's jamming out, he's smiling, he gets real happy, watches a funny video, whatever, and then he just shuts it all off and makes the call.
Yeah.
The best part about that is that when they say no, even if they say, Chris Funk, you Q-tipped haired son of a, we don't want you. Click. You know what he's gonna do? He's going to smile again, he's going to play his music, and he's going to jam out, and he's just going to make the next call. It doesn't matter. The no doesn't matter. Celebrate the fact that you're even doing it. You guys making cold calls, getting told no, will probably provide you more opportunities that you didn't see coming than you guys not doing them at all. If you guys are all inbound guys, getting all your leads from inbound, that's a beautiful thing, and sometimes that can sustain you. You'll get to a point in your career where you don't need to do those cold calls anymore. Mm-hmm. But I recommend, even if you're in that place in your business where leads are coming in organically without you needing to pick up the phone, the gigs that you do book from cold calling are going to pay you way more because, and we've talked about this before, they're not coming in with any expectations, preconceived notions, and they don't even, you're going to solve a problem for them that they didn't even know they had.
Yeah, totally. So. And again, my brain is just all over the place here. One of the things I wanted to point out in my whole cold calling is I never sell anything. I'm not selling them a thing. I don't talk about price. I don't tell them details about my show. I'm not trying to get them on board. I'm simply trying to find the person to get the stuff to and let them figure it out throughout my workflow, right? That's all I'm essentially trying to do. So I encourage all of you to prepare yourselves to maybe try one this week. Just try one. And if it's a big, hard fail, record it so that you can listen to it and realize why it was a big, hard fail. Like I always audio record. I audio record my shows. I don't even video record them. I want to make sure that my story still makes sense to me without seeing what I'm doing. So audio record your phone call. Listen to it. You see, I could have done this better. Change your script up a little bit. Move on type of a thing. Having said that, if you want help creating what the workflow is for you, I encourage you to work towards what it is, figure out a timeline. But I'd love to help you out with it. Like, do it in a Word document, export it to a PDF or something, and get it to me. And I've actually, I wasn't ready to share this, but I'm working on a new project called Your Virtual Boss. And basically, it's just going to be when I get it running, an accountability, a guidance, that type of a platform. Because as a self-employed person, we are our own boss, and very often we get lost in our own thoughts and our own ways of doing things. And having some outside guidance just to nudge us along the way is really, really helpful. Not necessarily coaching or anything like that, but just someone to hold you accountable. Deadlines. Maybe try adjusting your verbiage. Make this shorter. Just little things like that. So I've got this website. It's nothing much. It's just called yourvirtualboss.com. If you want, create a workflow. There's a little upload button there. You can just put your name and email in there and upload your PDF to me, and I'll take a look at it, and we can start a conversation, and maybe I can give you a little bit of guidance to change some scripting, maybe change the date process of how you are going to communicate with them and how long you wait in between, whatever it might be. But if you want help with that, let me know, yourvirtualboss.com. You can upload it right there, and I would love to just help you do this effectively. So,
oh man, Chris, you're awesome, man. So
Yeah.
good, guys. This one lesson is pretty much what the majority of a lot of courses teach. I have taken many of these courses and sit in many of these seats where you guys are at. This is pretty much my main takeaway from most courses, and this is just a tiny little piece of the stuff we're going over when talking about lead gen. In fact, if you guys can do this part of the course well, you don't even need the rest of the lead gen techniques. I'm going to give you way more ways to get gigs, but this alone is what it's crazy that he's going over all this too. And the mailers are so big. One more thing here, Chris, what do you think of this? If you schedule a call with them and you're giving them I do this, and I want to know your thoughts on it because I've never ran this by anybody. You've been in the game longer than me, so I send people the email that you say with like, hey, I'll call you this time and date, looking forward to it. But I also then send them a Google call invite, like a calendar invite, because then it makes it seem a little bit more serious. Then they hit yes, and then it gets added in their calendar. They don't forget about it. Would you recommend doing that, or is that something that you're just like, I wouldn't bother it?
So I think I that wasn't around when I was doing cold calls, so I never did that. But now the way that you bring it up, it sounds awesome, but I feel like it's a little bit too forward. And the reason why I say it's a little bit too forward to schedule the call is because right now you want to tell them what you're going to do, and you're going to do it without having them think you're doing a reminder thing. Does that make sense? Like, this is really, for me, it's a moment for you to shine, to be the person that does what you say you're going to do, which is such a rare thing in this world today, which I don't understand. But it's like, Chris, I'm going to call you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Well, tomorrow at 1 p.m., your phone is going to ring. I'm not going to send you an invite because I don't want you to anticipate it. I want you to forget about it. And then when I call, you're like, oh, that's right. You said you were going to call today at 1. It for someone sitting in an office, we're self-employed. Maybe tomorrow at 1, you're playing a basketball game and it doesn't work. I don't know. But for someone who's working out of an office and they're just sitting there and 1 o'clock comes around and they get that phone call when you said you were going to call them, it just kind of lets them light up a little bit inside. So
there's a guy from Yelp who's been trying to call me, man, and he'll tell me he's going to call me at a time, and even though I forget about it, I'm gonna go back to what you said, because I will never be ready to listen to this guy, even if I want to give him my time, because I'm always doing something else the time he says he's going to call. If he sent me a calendar invite, be in my calendar, I'd be like maybe a little bit more prepared to take it. But besides the point, that's just me. I'm always, even though I hate this guy's guts, I still kind of respect him when he calls me exactly at 1 p.m. You know what I mean? And I kind of like the guy now. Like, I'm not going to – I have no intention to buy Yelp ads again, but I at least respect the hustle that he's got. So there's something to that.
Yeah, there's something to it. And I mean, this sounds like a lot of information, and there's a lot of small details that we can go over with everything we've talked about. But the reality is create your layout. And if you're like me, I'm a visual person. I want to know what my layout is before I jump into something. So on my wall, I used to actually have a huge cork board, and they were all color coordinated. So I knew when I'm cold calling someone, I'm going to take my phone and stand over here in front of this section, because there are my rebuttals, there's my script, there's everything that I needed. Not that I would rebuttal someone, but it's like, hey, I totally understand what you're saying. Why don't I just do this, as opposed to still trying to fight to keep something. I had that all right there. Now, if it came to the point where someone called me and they wanted to talk price, which is a totally different coaching thing on another day, but I had a different part of my cork board where I could go to, where I knew I wasn't going to stutter, because I'm just going to say those types of things, because my delivery with confidence is going to be half the sale. So lay it all out, lay out what you want, put it there, get it into your brain, have a visual, do whatever it is that you want. But I encourage you guys to like think outside of your norm, try something different. Even just read over once this PDF goes to you. I'm going to send it to Chris as soon as we're done. I just want to fine tune some of the spelling errors, but as soon as I'm done, I'm going to get it to Chris. He'll send it to you. Take a look at it and then make it your own, make it your own script, but just stay a simple, friendly person. And I think that you're going to see good success from it. Totally.
Yeah, man. Chris, all right, dude, virtual applause for you.
Thank
rock
you.
this, man. You rock this. All right, Chris, I'm going to let you run. Guys, get in touch with him. Send him the workflow that you set up so you can review it. And ultimately just know that, all the people I bring into this course, they're in your corner for life. I mean, Chris is a busy guy, but if he could help you, he'll help you. He's shown that again and again. So, and he's celiac, so send him pictures of bread.
No, I can just go upstairs and watch my wife eat it.
Oh, she's not. Yeah, I don't know why I was assuming she gave it up for you, celery
Here and there,
juice.
she does. She's
Yeah.
a turkey.
All right, Chris, I appreciate this, man.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, see you later.
See ya.
All right. I'm going to stay on for a couple more minutes to answer any existing questions, go over a couple existing points. If you guys want to pop out now, you can. I won't be here for too much longer because I have a meeting I got to pop into. This is gold. This $7,000 show I've got on Wednesday coming up came from me doing some reach outs for corporate shows back in 2019, and this client saw a post of mine on social media, which was like, I can't remember, it was like me being sick or something, and they reached out to like check in, and then we ended up booking this gig. So cold call, social media post, $7,000 gig. There's how this is all starting to come together, Dan, how was your call, by the way, man?
Great. We did a demo for a summer camp for my son, and I think we sealed it. They've got 23 different summer camps.
Wow.
So
Huge.
we're going to do several multiple virtual shows, and he's going to be doing like maybe potentially 23 of all their camps. But one thing in the chat, I always love to find out takeaways from you guys. So since I wasn't here, if you have time to throw in what your takeaway from this, the chat would be great. So that way you guys can articulate and digest it. The little that I've caught was, I'm usually looking at harvest cycles that are really small, but one thing that I had recently was going on a hike in the redwoods, and the bigger the tree is, the longer it takes for them to grow. So like when you're talking about $7,000 shows or $20,000 shows or whoever, and I don't did even Chris mention the numbers are irrelevant because if you put in the good work, eventually those will come if you're planting and watering. But I think the reason why the takeaway for me is I haven't spent that time to expect them to be a customer when you feel like they're not ready. So I think one thing I learned from you is treat them like a customer even before they're a customer to get those higher dollar amounts. So to me, that's it.
One more thing, guys. Let me tell you what's going to happen. Man, have I been here. I've been in courses where we talk about cold calling, and I'm fired up by the session. I close it out. I go to make my first phone call, and I freeze because there's two things. What company or who do I call? And then you're going to get there with the phone. You're going to be like, wow, I have literally no information. I don't even know where to go from here. Guess what? That means you're doing it right. It's cold calling for a reason. If you need to find some people to call today, let's say you're getting off this call and you're fired up and you want to do it right now, go on LinkedIn and look for people who are hiring. This is just a tip, by the way. I'm experimenting with this myself. Look for people who are hiring virtual event managers or virtual event producers. I'm not saying apply for those jobs. Definitely don't do that. You guys would have to quit your job as a magician. But if you know people are thinking about hiring virtual event managers or virtual event producers, chances are virtual events are on their mind and they're trying to solve a problem they have right now. If you call them and provide the solution for the problem that they're currently searching for, those are really great places to start. So I would definitely try calling those people first. They're going to be hard to find. It's few and far between. I'm not here to teach you how to search for that. Dan will do a lesson on LinkedIn. Maybe he'll cover something like that. I don't know. But that's a good place for you guys to start if you want to do a couple today. You could also search for just companies near you. Call the closest whatever company building is closest to you. Pick up the phone. Call them. Zach Gartrell sent me a DM here, and he says there's a handwritten note website we talked about Katrina with when we were doing stuff in Zoom Magic and Mentalism, which they have. All right, water under the bridge. Inc. is the name of a website that you can go to, Inc., and they will give you. You can send handwritten notes online. So, like, for those of us who don't want to have a piece of paper and an envelope and, like, write it, I really recommend handwriting it, especially because you get that handwritten address on the envelope like Chris talked about. But Inc. is a great way to circumvent it if you just want to start. It's an app on your phone. Yeah, sorry. It's an app on your phone, Inc. You guys don't know this, but Zach just feeds me lines through DM, and I just read them. Not just Zach, but a lot of people. Dan Chan, Severino sometimes, or Patrick. They'll just send me stuff. I read them. Feels like a misnomer. Cold calling more the. Hold on, let me read that. Feels like a misnomer to cold calling more the cold outreach. I never pick up the phone until they give permission. To each their own. I say call first. I always start with a phone call. I mean, except for, I did book a big run of shows that I shared for free before launching this course. My email that I sent out. By the way, if you guys are in this course and somehow haven't seen the email that I sent out that booked me like tens and tens of thousands of dollars of gigs, all pretty much in one shot for virtual shows, reach out to me and I can get you that email that I sent. But it involved a phone call. It was an email for permission, then a phone call. So Zach says his takeaway, cold calling is really about finding the right person to send an email to. Yeah, it's funny because I had taken a bunch of these other courses, and that's to me very forward on my mind that that's the goal of a cold call. I forget that. I think you guys will see that cold calling, you should be getting off that phone with a sale. Very rarely that's how that happens. One more thing, Danny Orleans, some real juicy knowledge here. I'll cover this again in a lesson. Everybody familiar with Danny Orleans? Can you type a yes in the chat? Yeah? No? He helps run parts of Vanishing Inc. and also Amaze Kids. He's a co-author to 2 of my books. Me, Zach, and Danny all wrote a book together too, by the way, called Lights, Camera, Magic. So Danny's like my grandfather, and he works behind the scene in this course a little bit too. And I said, Danny, he said, don't give them too much information in this course. Give them things they can actually do. And I said, well, what is the most valuable thing that you can teach anybody for their career? And he said, have a good video. If you can get a good video in front of somebody who doesn't even know you exist yet, you have way more of a chance at closing that sale than anything in the world. So Chris Funk talked about that email where he sends materials. He barely even made a big point of that email, but I want to make a really big point of it, that first link should be a killer video. The good thing is, most magicians' promo videos are not good at all, so even having one that's mediocre is really good to a client. People forget that magicians run legit businesses and we have access to good video editing stuff. People who work tech jobs, they don't have promo videos. Seeing a promo video for somebody is a big deal. Remember that. We're so jaded by it. Excuse me, just burped. We're so jaded by it because we see promo videos all the time with people asking us for opinions on them. But a good promo video will sell you more than anything. Remember that. That will really help you in this process.
You were degraded for just a short amount of time. I just want to let you know your video quality just degraded to really blurry, and then it just went right back up.
You know what it is people. Yeah, my phone was ringing. I think it's Chris Funk. He probably wanted to be like, how did I do? So Which you guys, it's so funny. Maybe to like humanize these people, I get all these big name dudes to come in that teach stuff that they've been teaching for decades, and they always crush it. But like afterwards, they always call me and like, oh man, they're like, oh, gosh, I hope that was good. I'm like, are you kidding? You killed it. So, this was definitely my favorite one so far. Anything else before we hop off?
Just a question. Would you give us some tips on how to create a good promo video?
Yeah.
Is this something as part of the course, or?
You know, it's so hard to say.
The best tip is pay someone whose job it is to do that.
Yeah.
Like, you are never going to create a better promo video on your own. You know, I did that for years and it was complete garbage. And then I paid some random person I found at $350. That promo video has blown people out of the water. It's the same footage I was working with. It's just her job.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, yeah, it's like if I was like, how should I do a birthday party? You know, I've never done a birthday party before, but, you know, I can learn it in a weekend, right? No, hire someone whose job it is to run birthday parties. Same thing. Hire a really good video editor, put down the cash for it, and it'll come out looking amazing.
Let's share my screen. I'll show you a promo video I made, which I haven't made my own in years. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll share a screen. I'll show you one that I've made, and then I'll show you one that I paid somebody to make. You can just see the difference, okay?
Okay.
All right. Oop, sorry guys, try not to show too much sensitive info. You can't see my screen yet, can you? Magicians tend to message me when they're having a life crisis and need to figure out what to do better, and so I just didn't want to put that person's name out there. I have to find out how to find this old promo video, man. Bear with me, guys. In the meantime, anybody got another question? Patrick, to answer your question a little bit further, I don't know that I'd be sharing tips on that because I don't make my own. I don't know that any magician has time to like. If we're working on cold calling, which we should all be, then we have less time to do stuff like this. Let's figure this out.
One thing you could do is make a formula on like best practices that you can forward. And this is the thing that I'm doing now is I wrote feel free to be creative. Look at my website for inspiration, but feel free to use picture-in-picture. And then if you run it as a freelancer contest, like I did right here, you can get the best entries and you can just have lots of people competing for that. And they're more creative and they'll ask you for what they'll need from you. So you're a great performer already, right, Patrick? So I've had a couple, I'm going to message you like my contest. Please don't take any of the routines that I sent you because these are my own and they're very private. So
yes, of course.
But this actually has, to me, I overshare sometimes on videos because they want to see what the end product is. So with where I'm at, I'd rather show that to the event booker and they can see the spoiler, but that gets them on the phone and I can show them something else, like a demo.
Here is a tip, though, for you, Patrick, in terms of making promo video. Am I still recording this? I hope people will get this. Okay, yeah, this is like a little bonus session here, guys, a little bonus coaching call. Go to like a template site, like not B template. What is it called?
Canva?
Yeah, that's one. Like, what's the other one? Envato, Elements, things like that. Find these websites where they have pre-made like compilation videos, like stomp compilations or something, where they just have like stock footage in there, and it just like you find one that you like the flow of it, like watch pre-made templates, and then you can just stick your own clips and footage in there. And then if you know a little bit about video editing, you can tweak them to elongate the certain parts that you like more, or to get some applause in there.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my tip. That if you do that, like here's one I made on my own. That's not really a promo video. Here we go. Can you see this? Yeah, can you see?
Yes.
Okay, let me turn desktop audio on. You guys will get an echo if you talk. Hold on. Oh god, so cringy. Ugh, that was not the one that I thought. That one I might have just built on my own. Here's one using a template. It's not very good, but that's the point. that serves like no purpose other than being my header on Facebook. So let's do this. This is like oh, there's Dan Chan's video that he sent. This is my video that I've made on my own when I edited my own video, and then I'll show you what I'm working with when I hire people. Okay, it's way different. This is the old one.
Can you share audio?
Oh, is it not?
Very silent. It is, but it's silent.
This is back when I was in college, you guys. Oh God. Oh God, I hate watching that. I can't even stand it. That's like from like my college when I was, oh gosh. All right, not so bad, right? Let's do it. Let's do another one. Now this is a professionally made one. Here maybe I'll show you a shorter one than this. This is like 3. That's like my longer one. Here. This is the quality difference you get.
You cannot see it.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. How about now?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Michael.
What the? It's just like, dude, it's so much easier to just hire somebody to do something than it is to just make it on your own. And I don't even have to think about it. I can just tell a person, here's what I want. Here are the clips. Have at it. You know, a week later, I get a video. It goes to my website. Goes in my marketing materials. I'm done with it, you know? All right. We all good? Yeah? I'm going to go get a coffee, and I'm spending the rest of the day recording some stuff for lead gen. While I have you guys here, anything specific you want me to make sure I'm covering in that? I think I'm kind of already like, I'm already working at like cutting stuff out that you guys probably don't really need so that it's not like, I think this social media module was a bit much, but I didn't want to, I wanted to give you all the resources even if you guys don't necessarily use it right now. The second module is going to be a little bit more palatable, and I think it'll be a little bit more actionable. So
perhaps the one module was about how to niche down, right? If you can also give some tips about that, how to really find the market, and
okay.
Yeah,
okay,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can talk on that a little bit more.
I think that also ties in with who you are and what you do.
Yeah.
So I think that in itself would be a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if that's beneficial for you guys, definitely. I could
but I mean, for example, when I take the corporate market, and I mean, virtual now is as I said, is new for me, and I don't know, especially here in Germany, what kind of events there are taking place virtually now at all. And so I really have no idea how to, at that point now, to niche down. So, in that area.
My advice would be as to ask. That part of my strategy when I would reach out to, like, I still okay, you guys are doing those 5 calls a day with clients just to reconnect, and I'll tell you not to sell anything. That is a really great time for you to call them and find out what they're doing right now. Like, if you hear the same thing 7 times, you know that's probably a good market for you to start exploring and get into. And then ultimately, when it comes to niching down, there is no real answer to that other than what you want to do, because I have been in a lot of different niches. And Zach, are you still with us? Because I'm going to pull you in this if you are.
Yeah, I'm here, mate.
Zach, we talk about this a lot, man. Like, you can make money in any niche. You don't have to be, and I have a video on that is in the next module. You don't have to be a corporate performer to be making a ton of money. You can make crap load. Like, Christopher Weed probably makes more money than any corporate performer, and he just does family stuff or birthday parties. My phone is ringing again. Yeah, sorry guys, apologize. I can't. Like I said, I could only commit but so much time. After that, things start to fall apart. So, yeah, if you find something that you're passionate about and you like to do, that should be ultimately the area that you explore. Like, I didn't know that I didn't decide one day that I was going to just start doing associations for 250 members. I just noticed, hey, I like doing associations. Oh, I really love doing those brain break sessions for them in the middle of the day. And then also, I noticed that, when they have about between like 100 to 250 people is where I'm the most comfortable with doing those. That became my niche. That became what I started going for. So if there's something that you've done in the past that you really like, do that, and then don't be afraid to pivot and move. If it's not working out or you're not getting the type of gigs for it, put a little bit of grit into it and try, but it's okay for you to pivot. And you also can have multiple niches, but you got to then figure out, like I talked about in that video, the detriment to that is that it takes more time, you need to develop more materials, and ultimately you start to muddy your message a little bit. Seiko says, oh, it's very different. A lot of companies are not doing anything at all for virtual entertainment in Germany and Switzerland. We really have to make them aware that that there is something like virtual entertainment, but they can't imagine it very well. That's why sending a video is so important, and helping them understand. And discovery calls, asking them. Me and Chris Funk were just talking about this before you guys came in here. The secret to success on virtual right now is these things that he calls test drives. Companies a lot of the time don't really know what a good virtual event looks like. He can get on there, he can show them the tech, he can show them how he can pull up a video with the press of a button and it blows their mind. He does, the pen to pencil illusion and freaks them out, and then all of a sudden they buy his show for lots of money.
So, yeah, if you're not doing demos, people can't picture what's going on. And the thing is, there are a lot of global companies out of Germany, Severino, and you need to find a company that has a team that's distributed. Like, for example, I did a show for a company that's French and Germany owned. It's called Bomag, and they're German based. And I did the event for them, but you'd be perfect to do Bomag's virtual events because they're based in Germany. They have a construction company, but then they sent me to Shanghai, and they sent me to Las Vegas, and they sent me to Germany, all 3 places. But the thing is, they're probably and I'm probably their cheapest guy out there because they're just like, oh, we use you in China and you're local to Las Vegas. But they themselves all speak German. So they probably want a show in German, but they're doing this as a customer thing for themselves. But executives, and feel free to contact only that company, I'll tell you that Bomag Germany is a global company. And feel free to say, hey, my friend Dan worked for you guys. If you can find the right people, just say, my friend Dan worked for you guys in Las Vegas and Shanghai and Germany. Can I show you a demo?
Also, you guys should be reaching out. Oh, sorry, Dan. I was gonna say they should be reaching out to American companies that are global too. Like, I performed at least 3 events where there was a German team there because they were global events, and there were some of their guys from Germany. There are American events that will host global events, so don't be afraid to come over here and do those calls. Don't let big scary mean magicians that tell you you're taking work away from the American guys stop you. Just call anyway. I give you my blessing.
Yeah, do both. But I'm saying that there's less people competing in that. So if you're saying, hey, you want to build up some steam, there's no one in that area. You might be competing against a lot, But once you figure out the German market, you can replicate it in the US or wherever else. But if you start with a Nero 1, they're not going to hire me for a German show. So you're the only logical choice. Then when you start getting like the $5,000 or $10,000 events, then you can start bringing that globally. But my strategy is focus on one small thing first, because there's no competition there. Why do you want to compete against everyone else? If you speak German, you can have a German introduction. We cannot do that. Everyone speaks English, so I think that market's even harder. And that's just my personal opinion.
Go through Chris Funk's workflow. Even if German people aren't doing company events right now, remember, put them in that no workflow and just do that slow burn with them for a while, because that's still beneficial for you. And in America, 90% of your phone calls are people who are just going to say, "Oh, we're just not doing any events. We're waiting for things to go back to normal. Maybe we'll do something in 2022." Click. Like that is going to be 90% of all calls, even here in America. But that's okay. Like, that is okay. If you could remember, 1% of the people you call need to book you for something for cold calling to be effective. 100 calls is 1 gig. I hope that your number is better than that, but 1 gig, you heard Chris Funk, he did 150 calls in one day. Booking 1 good gig on that day makes cold calling a success. So, and yeah, Severino's sharing something that we talked about offline, which is the introduction video. Yeah, Severino, this is a great idea. Like, you're right about splitting markets. You have to make every piece of material twice. You have to have one for English and one in German. We talked about these explainer videos for virtual events. Short promos don't sell virtual. We need to leave no question unanswered. So I have one on my YouTube page you guys are welcome to look at. I also, somewhere on Facebook, have a video that I put out for free talking about why shorter promos don't sell anymore. We need to go back, take a look at that. Zach says, I have some promo material in Spanish for certain markets. It's very wise. Yeah. So explainer videos where you guys can break down what virtual events look like, what goes into them, what the benefit of that is, what it looks like, who's going to be involved, what they need to do on their end. People they have no idea what it takes to do one, so they're just not doing them. If we could show them, we have much greater chance of standing out. So can you send us links? Yeah. Can you guys save these, though? Because I'm about to end the call, so...
Just pop them on an email or...
Maybe you can jump off and we can, whoever's still here can still stay here until your next Zoom, and you can kick us out.
Cool, let's do that.
We won't stay more than 5 minutes anyways.
Yeah, do your thing.
We'll just chat, because yeah.
All right.
Hey, good seeing you, Chris.
Bye. I'm gonna go answer some phone calls. See you guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.